Immortal John Hancock here, and today I have another Atari VCS update. Now, I've talked about this a couple times on my channel. I like to share news about it. It's pretty interesting, and so I want to talk about what they just announced today, the end of April. They have announced pre-order details. Now, they haven't released a ton of details about the console, but we'll get to that in a second. I did a video about 5 weeks ago talking about the Atari VCS and how they announced they kind of floundered on their first announcement of it, and then months passed, they didn't say anything, and then they made an announcement they were going to make an announcement, and that's kind of what they did today, but they did release some details. So let's talk about these, and I'm going to give you my thoughts about what I think currently about the Atari VCS. Now, in the previous video I said I don't love it or hate it. You know, it's something. I mean, look at I built a room based on Atari. I grew up with Atari. I love Atari. But is this really Atari? And I think that's something that you are going to have to answer yourself. And this project is pretty interesting. And so, for people that have been living underneath a rock, the Atari VCS is a rebranding of a classic. It's modernized. They're essentially doing like a Linux computer with digital downloads, infrastructure. Think of like an Ouya that's an Atari brand that they're going to offer, and along with Atari classics. And so, love it or hate it, this thing is moving forward. We'll see how far it goes. So, okay. So they announced today the price. And so initially, when they first started to do this project, they were throwing out a $300 price tag, which I thought, oh my gosh, that is silly. Today, they are going to be offering a pre-order bundle, and that's going to be started. You can pre-order it May 30th. So that's the good news, is May 30th, you can pre-order this for $199. Now, I have some of the specs here. There's some things that are like, oh, there's some things I don't like about this. So they're talking about 4K resolution, HDR, 60 frames per second, onboard and expandable storage, dual band Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5.0, USB 3.0, blah blah blah. Okay, and so the controllers are made by PowerA. Now, for some of those may not know who PowerA is. PowerA makes like a lot of the Switch accessories, like the wired Zelda controller is the best one I can think of. Interesting, okay? Interesting, nevertheless. Gosh, I don't know what I think of that. I saw the controller, and it looks interesting. And so what they're doing is they're bundling. Looks like they're offering a bundle without anything for a cheap $200. But then I guess there'd be other bundles that will include the classic controller if you haven't seen it. It looks like a standard Atari 2600 joystick. One moment. I have one right here. It looks like this, but it's modernized, and it serves dual purpose as a paddle and a standard controller. Interesting. I don't know how many modern games are going to do that, but that will be an option, and it sounds to me like those will be sold separately and in a bundle. Also, it'll also include a modern controller. So they are trying to market this thing as kind of its own thing that can play games. We don't know how powerful it is. They are going to announce specs before pre-orders go live. Now, let's talk about pre-orders. The pre-orders are going to be through IndieGoGo. Oh my gosh, it gets me so frustrated. So many of you might have seen my Retro Engine Sigma video, and I ordered this, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a Raspberry Pi, but it wasn't. And through IndieGoGo, I'm kind of done with IndieGoGo. Like, I really am. And this is why. So IndieGoGo is kind of like Kickstarter, but you don't need a prototype before you start taking people's money. And so there's no guarantee. And they say that Atari has announced that this is going to be shipping in spring of 2019. So you pay for it now and wait a year. And, you know, As a person that has supported many game projects, Kickstarter, I try to stick with Kickstarter because it's more stable and there's a little bit of protection there. IndieGoGo, there's no protection. So you're out $200 and you have to wait a year hoping that this thing comes out. Now, the person behind these projects doesn't have the best track record. So I'm just really hesitant. I'm really hesitant of even thinking about IndieGoGo. And so I don't know. I don't know if I even want to support it. And it's tough because, like I said, I am an Atari fan. I built a room with Atari games. I love Atari, but I don't know if this is Atari. I think this is taking the Atari name and trying to do something with it. Also, they also announced, I forgot to mention this, that they're going to include 100 games, classic 2600 games on the console. And and you can also get the same package through Steam. It's called the Atari Vault. And so, I don't know. Here's my thoughts about this, okay? I want Atari to be successful. Period. I think everybody would love to see Atari come back in some way, shape, or form. But I think people want Atari to come back and provide something that's not offered somewhere else, okay? I like Atari. If I want to play Atari, I can just turn around, play, hundreds of games on a standard 2600 and love it, okay? If I want to play on an HD TV, I can play one of these until the Retron 77 comes out. Hi, Pekin, I hope you're watching. I would like one. And, that's just it. There's so many ways of playing Atari, okay? Playing Atari stuff isn't that big a deal anymore, okay? It's not even, I don't even know if it's fully relevant in today's gaming. I like Atari, but there's an entire generation out there that doesn't care about Atari. And it's going to take a lot more than that for people to be interested in picking up this console. There's a lot of people that grew up with Atari that don't care about this because they're going through IndieGoGo. Or they're like me, they have hundreds of Atari games, and it's like, well, unless you offer something different, what makes this different than a flashback? Atari flashbacks are awesome. It's a great way to experience Atari, and they're less than $100. This is $200 and more, and it's not even guaranteed to come out, and you have to give the money ahead of time for a year and wait a year until it comes out. Gosh, there's a lot there not to like, and I'm just being honest. Like, anybody who doesn't want to do this or support it, I totally understand. On one hand, I want them to succeed. I think there's a lot of people that would want Atari to succeed, but really, Atari is just a name as what they used to be, And so, is this relevant? I mean, think about it. By the time this comes out in spring of 2019, you might be able to get like a PS4 or an Xbox One S at $200. Is that the equivalent? Would you rather have this or that? Is this like kind of an add-on, a novelty? And what's their expectations? That's all going to be really important as they move forward. So the big news is May 30th, you can pre-order it. It'll be interesting to see what their goal is of how much, how many millions of dollars they need before this thing becomes successful. Gosh, I don't know. They could be shooting themselves in the foot going the IndieGoGo way. I think there's a lot of people that'd be more interested if they had private funding and then offered it in a limited appeal to retail stores. I know for me, I'd feel a lot more comfortable seeing it actually in person or running on a demo somewhere before deciding to shell out any money for it. It's just unproven. We already have enough things to play games on. And, before I was on the fence 50-50. I don't know where I stand now. The more I talk about it on camera, the more I think about it, it's tough. It's a tough one, And I'm not an Atari basher whatsoever. I mean, hopefully everybody knows I'm one of the bigger Atari fans out there. I just don't know what they're doing with this. And I think that it's asking a lot from people to pony up $200 to wait a year with something that's unproven. The Switch, that's proven now. That's a proven console, proven infrastructure, plenty of games. The Atari, you know, is not even in a remotely same category as that. You know, Xbox One S, tons of games, tons of options. PlayStation 4. So you're asking people to spend nearly as much on those consoles on something that pretty much is just offering today just a bunch of Atari classics. It needs to do something different. So anyways, it's kind of a ramble, but I wanted to just talk about, you know, that. And what do you think? Alright, new Atari VCS update news. I dropped it today. I'm probably going to drop this video a little bit early. And what are your comments? What are your thoughts? Are you interested now? Or are you not interested now after you hear that it's going through IndieGoGo? Oh my gosh. For me personally, that's a huge red flag. And so, I don't know. I'm really just, God, I want to put the brakes on it when I hear about that. Anyways, I want to do a quick video about it. I love Atari. I love talking about stuff like this. Thank you so much for people continuing to tune into my channel. Still doing 3 videos a week. You can also support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. I also do a bonus video every month. Thank you so much. Folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock. You take care.